We've had a couple of teasers for the Codex Chaos Space Marines, and there's some new rules that are available. So there's going to be at least 3 detachment rules that we've had an update on, and there's possibly going to be 7 detachments in total, which is quite a nice number for Space Marine lovers. There's some well-known strats that have returned. You're going to see names that you've seen before, and a couple of tasty looking enhancements to add flavour to the armies. The new detachment for the Chaos Lord with jump pack, so you're going to be able to utilise him as much as you want. And will the Chaos Cultist army now be playable? But dark packs, they might actually be gone now. So first up is Deceptors, Masters of Misdirection, and this is the Alpha Legion detachment. So this essentially grants any Legionnaires or Cultist units with the infiltration ability, and you can give this to 3 units for a Strike Force game. So this is 3 for each category, so you can have 3 Legionnaires and 3 Cultists, so that's 6 in total, so you can really push a lot of pressure on early game. Now it's possibly not the strongest because you can easily negate it if our opposition does have the infiltration keyword as well. They can try and counteract this, or they can just set up in a manner that will bypass this, such as if they have plenty of units that can deep strike, or they have movement shenanigans themselves where they can move in their commandment phase, or they have scout moves. So there's a lot that you can do to get around this a little bit. It will need some strong enhancements and stratagems to get the best out of this, because you are just essentially at the start of the game going, here's 3 to 6 units that are going to set up further afield. Unless the datasheets, enhancements and stratagems back that up in a meaningful way, it just means you might be losing models sooner than you'd expect. Next we have Renegade Raiders, and this has got the Masters of Misdirection again, which is a bit weird to have the similar name to the Alpha Legion, but it might just be a copy and paste job that's gone a little bit wrong. So this grants any Astartes models the assault keyword on their weapons, so anytime you would advance you get to shoot your ranged weapon as well. In addition to this, if you're targeting a unit that is within range of an objective marker, you gain an additional AP, which is very nice, especially for some of your weaker weapons such as your bolters. Next we have the Chaos Cult, which is a Desperate Devotion. This is your cultist detachment, and it might be popular because a lot of people do like their Chaos Cultist army, and they complained in the past there's not really a viable way to run it. So their detachment rule gives you additional movement. Any unit that has the damn keyword, that has the dark packs ability, allows you to make a normal and advanced move and still declare a charge, which is very nice. If that was by itself, it'd be a nice little inclusion to have. But what you get on top of this as well is you get +2 your movement and +2 to your charge roll. So not only do you get to move that general 6 inches, you get +2, then you get to advance and charge, so you average it a 4 there, and then you add in 2 to your charge roll, so your average charge roll is then down to a 5, which is very nice. There's currently no keywords in the index that has the damned keywords a part of it, so it'll be interesting to see how they work this into the datasheets with the new codex. Now there is a second part to this, and the Desperate Pacts. So each time a unit makes a Desperate Pact, if they must first take a leadership test. If they fail it, they take D3 mortal wounds. So this is part of getting the +2 to your move and charge. So if you choose to not have the +2 to your move and charge, you don't have to take a Desperate Pact. But as long as you pass that leadership test, you don't take those D3 mortal wounds. But saying that, even if you failed it, those D3 mortal wounds aren't the most damaging to your unit. And next we have an enhancement which is called the Incend Gold. This essentially grants your Dark Possible or Dan models, the unit they're leading will get +1 to their strength characteristic of the melee weapons. And if the unit is below a half strength, they get +1 to the attack characteristic. So if you're below starting strength and below half strength, which you will be a lot of the time, you're getting +1 strength and +1 damage, which is very nice. Now it is linked to the unit strength, which is often a bit underwhelming. So a lot of the time when you are using these enhancements or strats that are linked to the unit strength, you're not getting the best out of the unit. You might be using it when there's only 1 or 2 models, so they're not always good value for points in the competitive sense, but in the casual games, they can generally be okay. So there is a stratagem, a battle tactic stratagem called Infernal Sacrifice, and this grants one of your damned units from your army. It can make a desperate pact, and if it does, you do suffer those D3 mortal wounds. So that auto D3 mortal wounds is a bit nasty, but until the end of phase you do get that +1 attack characteristic of the melee weapon. And if you don't fail your leadership test, you get that +1 strength. So if you are below half strength and you use this stratagem and you pass all of your leadership test, you're going to be +2 strength and +2 attack characteristics, which is a lot coming in on a cultist. You're going to be at strength 5 and potentially at 4 attacks, which with that weight of numbers on a strength 5 can do an awful lot of damage. Then we have the Dread Talent, which is the Night Lord's Detachment, which might be another popular one because they are quite an iconic army. There's very few details available so far. We haven't been told anything about the detachments or any additional buffs. We only have the one enhancement. The new Chaos Lord is going to be the one that can take this enhancement because he is the Jump Pack Chaos Lord and he's the only one that can take this. So at the end of the opponent's turn, if he's not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, they can be removed from the battlefield and placed into strategic reserve. That's for the bearers unit as well. So if you have these with your warp talent, you can just pull them right out of the battlefield and drop them down in the next turn, which is very nice. Hopefully the rest of the rules won't be too movement shenanigan-esque, because we don't want them to be a Raven Guard light type of detachment, where it's more about repositioning and a little bit of a tit for tat. For this, we want a little bit more damage focus at times. They are the terror troops, so we don't really want it to be battle shock test. We want it to be they force it by killing models rather than just force them to have the battle shock, which is a bit underwhelming. We've got a couple of enhancements for two other ones, being Fellhammer and Packbound Zealots. So they will represent the Iron Warriors and the Word Bearers respectively. So for the Iron Warriors one, they get the Iron Artifice enhancement. So this essentially grants the model anti-vehicle 4+ and anti-fortifications 4+. So they will wound anything with a vehicle or fortification keyword on a 4+, which is really nice, especially if it's a low strength weapon. It'd be beneficial if it had high AP and 2 damage, just to make sure you're pushing through a bit of wounds. But fortifications, there's not really many of those in the game, and that you don't see them on the tabletop. Then for the Word Bearers, we do get one called Packbound Zealots, Talisman of the Burning Blood. So the Word Bearers are kind of like unaligned. So they look like they're going to be having a little bit of an influence from all the gods. The one we've got here is for the Khorne. So any Heretic Astartes Khorne model that you have, you get to add 1 to the attacks and strength characteristics of the melee weapons, which is very nice. And if it makes a Dark Pact, then they do not fail their leadership test. You roll 1d3, and until the end of the phase, you add the results to the attacks and strength characteristics instead. So that will be really nice, that you will potentially be getting up to 4 additional attacks and +4 strength when this comes off in your favor, which is really nice to have. Then we've got Veterans of the Long War. This is a strategic ploy, and it's back. And you've got the Black Crusade this time. So this gives you the ability to advance and fall back. And it actually grants you devastating wounds as well. But this is only for your bolters and your combi bolters and bolt pistols. So it's a nice little damage buff here. And what it also does is it's limited to 6 wounds. So you can only have 6 devastating wounds. So anything above that would just be a normal wound. Then we have the Let the Galaxy Burn, which is a strat that gives you ignores cover. And if it's for a torrent weapon, you change the attack characteristic from D6 to 6, which is very nice. It takes a bit of that variable firepower away and gives you that consistent 6. So if you've got a squad of 5, that's 30 attacks auto hitting, which is very nice. And it ignores cover, so you can't really complain at that. Strats are always welcome that are geared towards damage output. They're generally the popular ones because they they do exactly as they say on the tin. It does this in this phase for this outcome, which is very nice, and they're easy to use and they're generally quite popular to have. So in conclusion, there's a nice mix of different detachments. There's different flavors around, so you can play Chaos Space Marines however you want. And they sound like they're all going to be playing a little bit differently. So it won't just be a case of you take this detachment because this damage output is good here, or you take this detachment because these are slightly faster. It will just make them all play differently rather than minor changes between them. Hopefully the strats and enhancements are a little bit balanced. Often we see that we have one detachment will outshine everything else. It will shine brighter than the sun just because it's got a couple of good strats and detachments, detachment rule that links into the enhancements as well. So hopefully there's a balance across all the detachments so they all have a large amount of usable strats and enhancements. So most of the codexes so far, they've had at least one stinker, usually 2 stinkers or just 3 or 4 okay detachments. So hopefully this one has none and they all are usable detachments from the get-go. So it seems like it is going to be a really good codex for Chaos players. They generally complain that they're a little bit left behind by the normal Space Marines, but this looks like it's going to be one that's going to really push them in the meta, and they're at least going to be, you know, a high B army if it's going the way it looks like it's going to. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to see more content. If you want to support the channel, consider getting a membership. If you pop across to Patreon and take a free membership, I do a fair bit of blogging there, and there's some memes available, and there's a couple of STLs available for the likes of objective markers and light terrain if you want to check them out. Check out these other videos. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.